When the self-proclaimed Islamic State, or ISIS, started attracting attention this summer, it was in response to the horrific violence the militant group was waging against Syrian and Iraqi civilians. But now, after the murder of a second American hostage, the United States appears locked into a broadening conflict with no clear end in sight.
Because of your insistence.
American journalist Steven Sotloff, clad in orange, kneels quietly as an ISIS terrorist spews threats against the United States.
So just as your missiles continue to strike our people, our knife will continue to strike the necks of your people.
Soon after, Sotloff is gruesomely beheaded. The video is similar to the one released last month showing the beheading of New Hampshire journalist James Foley. In that video, ISIS threatened to kill Sotloff if U.S. airstrikes continued, prompting a direct appeal from his mother.
I ask your justice to be merciful and not punish my son for matters he has no control over.
Shortly after confirming Sotloff's death, President Obama said the U.S. will not be intimidated.
Their horrific acts only unite us as a country and stiffen our resolve to take the fight against these terrorists. And those who make the mistake of harming Americans will learn that we will not forget and that our reach is long and that justice will be served.
The Obama administration is reportedly considering expanding airstrikes to include ISIS targets within Syria. But Pentagon officials warn that military force is only part of the solution.
ISIL has to be defeated only through the defeat of their ideology. And the only way you're going to do that is good governance. Good governance in Iraq. There's a unity government standing up that's promising. Good governance in Syria, where obviously things are not so well with the Assad regime.
Meanwhile, ISIS is threatening to kill a third hostage, British aid worker David Haynes.
So what can the United States do to bring Sotloff and Foley's killers to justice? Joining me now is WGBH News contributor Charles Sennott, who co-founded GlobalPost, the Boston-based news outlet where James Foley worked. He's also the founder of the GroundTruth Project. Welcome again, Charlie. Unfortunately, we're here just a few weeks talking about the same thing. Was there any sense in your mind that Steven Sotloff had a chance? After knowing what happened with James Foley, the appeal from the mother, we were continuing to strike in Syria, but did you really think that they would do it again?
I'm sad to say I think I did feel that his fate was sealed. There was no way that this death cult, ISIS, was going to let up. There was no way to negotiate with these people. This is the hardest thing of all. You know, the question of should you pay ransom to a group that clearly you'd be creating the most perverse incentive I could ever think of, paying an organization that goes out and kills people, you know, and takes them hostage and has a sort of relentless a pursuit of their goals that goes beyond terrorism. It goes into a nihilistic, as I say, kind of death cult. That said, when you look at Mrs. Sotloff, or you look at the Foley family, and you think about them trying to save their sons, you know, your heart goes out to them, and you understand why they wanted the Obama administration to consider allowing them to pay the ransoms. But I don't know what we do in this situation.
Right. Part of me wonders how big this group is. I mean, this appears to be the same individual.
Yeah.
Britain has said they think they know who it is. They think they've identified him. I'm confused as to why they can't.
The knife-wielding.
You know, the guy who beheaded these two people.
Jihadi John, as he's been called.
I mean, is he he's the only one who has the nerve to do it? I mean, you know, would someone else step in and do it otherwise? So I guess I'm saying, why can't they get him?
Well, I think they're trying. I mean, there were a lot of reports about a week ago that they were closing in on him. This is an East London or South London accent, depending on who you talk to, but they've been trying to vector in on who is this person. The broader question of what is ISIS? ISIS is a fractured splinter group, extremists that have broken off from the opposition, and they represent about 10,000 people by the State Department's estimates. And those 10,000 are formidable in the sense that they have taken a large swath of land. As we know, they took Mosul. As we know, they've extended into serious territory into Iraq. And some of the questions of culpability in the region are really important. What has Turkey done to close its borders? Very little. What has Syria done? They've left the border wide open as if to say to this extremist group, go ahead and go down into Iraq if that's where you want to set up your caliphate. And I think it's thrown us into a very complex equation. I think you'd have to say the Obama administration has been extremely slow to react. I think they've been really caught in the headlights here on what to do. But what's going to have to happen is to contain, which they're doing, and degrade, which they're barely accomplishing, and then build a coalition that can degrade and destroy. But that's going to take time.
Well, revenge is very satisfying. It is. It's a satisfying emotion, and we can understand why we would want to go in and start bombing ISIS targets and that. But is the Admiral right when he says the only thing that's really going to change the situation in the end is the government itself, the governance of the people, the governance of the country, because these splinter groups are going to continue to exist without it?
Well, it's awfully hard to tell that to the families whose son's fate hangs in the balance, or husbands. This is an incredibly difficult moment for the world, for our country, for these families. And the truth is, yes, we're going to need governance, but right now we need military action to first contain, then degrade, then destroy. And to do that, you're going to have to see some unbelievable coalition building. We may end up in a coalition with Iran. That's extraordinary. If you think about history, and you just go back for a minute to the first hostage crisis we ever faced as a country, and what that felt like, how barbaric that felt, that they put bags over the heads of these diplomats and they paraded them around. And you think about how that launched really the beginning of Islamic fundamentalism, the Iranian Revolution. And think about those hostages, all of whom arrived home safe, alive. They were fed well. They were not tortured. They were certainly inhumanly detained, but I think they were ultimately released. And look at where we are now, where we have, once again, the nation is held hostage by these people. And I think not only right now is America held hostage, I think what we do, what we as journalists do, is under attack. Right now, the work that brave journalists do to try to be in the field, to bring home the really disturbing truths of war and of conflict, and who take risks, yes, but both of these journalists had great passion for getting at those stories.
They don't seem to care, by the way, Charlie, whether they're journalists or not, because this third person being held
is an NGO worker.
Is an NGO worker, and he's just going to be another American.
British. He's actually British. So the pressure now is on Cameron, Prime Minister in the United Kingdom, to basically say, hey, if you decide to actually take military action, you know, he's next. So they're trying to disrupt this ability to build a coalition around that. They're not going to succeed. I think when President Obama says this serves to unite us, I think that's true. You know, I think that this is an opportunity for all of us to be reminded what a divisive and cynical time we live in, and we face a great evil. This is a really powerful presence of darkness on the world right now. And watching these families show the love for their sons, hearing the Foleys in New Hampshire talk about their faith and their strength, that's light against this darkness. And I think that sense of unity, needing to have a united purpose, is really the big message to the United States and also to the world. We can't be divided on this.
All right, Charlie Sennott, thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you.